A lot of people find this book really difficult. It's extremely long and convoluted and goes around in circles quite a lot, like lots of Victorian literature. But if you're at all susceptible to that world, the world of the 19th century, it's just so charming. It's so funny and so sad. And he manages these enormous jumps between funny and sad in the same scene. So you'll just be chuckling away, at top of page 403, halfway through the book, and suddenly he'll drop you off a cliff into such sadness. And it's just a very true picture of young people growing up, I think. It makes it quite universal as well. Thackeray's target here is social climbing. So he's really taking the mick out of the English class system, and he's doing it through looking at what happens when people try to step out of their class. And at a time when people were constantly moving in class, and we tend to think that movements between social classes are a modern thing. But in Thackeray's time, people were always losing their fortune and collapsing, or managing to marry the right man and going up a few. It's a just big game of snakes and ladders, and Becky is climbing ladders, and other people in the story are sliding down the snakes. And always, throughout the whole book, everybody is in movement between different social classes, sometimes catastrophically. And that makes it really modern, I think, because that's still happening today, isn't it? It's probably wrong to describe Becky Sharp as the heroine of this story, because she's pretty awful quite a lot of the time. She's kind of an anti-heroine, I suppose, at a time when nobody really wrote those. She's a really sparkly, really amoral, really exciting character. She's always surprising. And one of the great things about her is she doesn't always get it right. It would be wrong to think of Becky Sharp as being some sort of very organised, she's got a big plan, she knows where she's going. She makes it up day by day, like we all do, and she often gets it wrong. And you have to remember she's very young, and very young people get it wrong all the time, and that's what she does. And it's charming, really, I think. She is of low birth, but has many talents and a great deal of intelligence, and she thinks that should be enough to propel her through life. And we think that today, don't we, that it should be enough. Still depends on who you were born, how much money you have, who you know, all the usual things. Still the same now, much more so in Thackeray's time. All the characters in Vanity Fair are incredibly vivid. It's not just Becky carrying the can for everyone. In a way, Thackeray is writing about two different ways to be a woman, a good way and a bad way. So Becky represents the bad way, even though very charming. Amelia represents the good way to be a woman. She's the perfect Victorian woman. It's easy to imagine her as this rather wussy, rather sort of hopeless, feeble character who cries all the time, but really she's not like that at all. She's incredibly proud and very strong-willed. I think Amelia is an old-fashioned, strong-willed, maternal figure. She has no power in the world, but she has a lot of personal power that she's not yet able at the beginning of the story to express. And I always think that Amelia has a much bigger journey throughout the whole of the story of Vanity Fair, that she really becomes another person. She changes. Becky doesn't really change, but Amelia starts as a little girl and she becomes a grown woman. And it's very moving and interesting to watch her do that in that Victorian mindset. Rawdon Crawley is my favourite male character in the whole of English literature. And people are always very surprised when I say that, because he's just this terrible old roughy-tufty soldier, hunting, shooting, fishing. But I think what happens to Rawdon in the story is so sad and so resonant. I mean, he just is a man felled by love for the wrong woman. And the outcome of his story always really upsets me when I think about it. Tom Bateman, who plays Rawdon Crawley, has just got it so perfectly. I mean, he is the Rawdon Crawley of my dreams. Perfect. And that's my favourite character, really. Dear Dobbin, I mean, it's the name given to a sort of cart horse, isn't it? Dobbin, the cart horse. He's utterly virtuous, a bit stiff, a bit unimaginative, not glamorous, but so lovely, so kind, so virtuous. The husband that we should all want to have, rather than the gorgeous, mustachio twirling gents that the girls in the story go for. He's all heart and all man, and just a lovely, lovely guy, and therefore it doesn't go well for him in the story. He's the nice guy who always finishes last. George is so selfish and hopeless and, up himself. Got nothing going for him really, apart from ambrosial whiskers, as Thackeray describes him. But I love George because he's so young. He can't really help the way he is, and he will grow out of it. If he has time, if he's granted enough time in his life, he will grow out of it. Maybe he'll even be a good husband to Amelia. But at the moment, at the beginning of the story, selfish, snotty, horrible, really. Oh, for God's sake, George, get over yourself. Rawdon's dad, Sir Pitt Crawley, is one of those great monsters of great monster kind of squire, country squire, played for us by Martin Clunes, which is just fantastic. I always think with him he's just got the life force coursing through him. In that way, he really is the person in the story who's the best match for Becky. Those two go off like Roman candles. In no other way are they a good match, obviously. He's too old, he's too daft. But as played by Martin Clunes, I mean, what's not to like? Perfect old mad countryman. There are a lot of characters, there are a lot of countries, there's a lot of galloping about, but it's all about one thing, which is the friendship between Becky and Amelia, the good girl and the bad girl, the one that you should be like and the one that you really shouldn't, even though she's gorgeous. And if you just hold on to that, I think you can navigate your way through Vanity Fair by holding on to the idea that this is all about a friendship between two girls who become two women, very different women, and the effect they have on each other's lives across 10 or 15 years. That's the thread that holds Vanity Fair together for me. It's not about Becky and her relationship with Rawdon. It's not about Amelia and her relationship with George. It's about Becky and Amelia. It's a girl's friendship. That's the story.